Right, before we go any further, I'd like to chat to you a little bit more about color. It is very useful to know that if you want to mix the more natural colors, the neutral colors, there's a very easy way of doing it. It doesn't work as well with food coloring as it does with other paints, but it is important to know about. So what I want to mention is that once again, looking at the color wheel, you know by now that colors have opposites. So obviously the opposite of yellow would be purple, for example. Now, if you wanted a dusty yellow or a mustard yellow, you would add a tiny little touch of purple to the yellow to get that kind of dusty yellow. The same with the greens. You'd add a tiny little bit of red, and then you would get those khaki greens, those more earthy greens. And so you need to know the opposite of each color and what happens when you actually put that little pinprick of color into the opposite color. I'd like you to try, you can actually try with the food coloring. I used my blues and it didn't work that well because it tends to separate out a little bit into a kind of pinks and blues, but it is an important part of color mixing. So experiment a little bit with that while you're mixing your colors. What I did to start with is I started mixing my colors, and I've got a test piece of paper, very, very important. As you can see, I started going into greens, and then I tried to pull it back, and I had to put a whole lot more blue. So you're going to be going backwards and forwards to pull your colors. Here you can see I'm going into purples, and eventually I started getting my color swatches together. With the food coloring, as I said, the red and the blue, when you mix it together, kind of starts to separate out, and I started to move a bit more into the purples and pinks. But generally speaking, I started to get my darker, intense blues, adding more water, getting to the light blues, pushing my blues towards greens, pushing my blues towards purples, moving a little bit too much into the purple. And so I have a whole range of colors. It's a little tricky with the food coloring because they all look the same to me. They all just look like dark blue. So my color swatches are going to be very important when I'm painting, and my test piece of paper. If you are working with browns, you can use regular old coffee to make an amazing brown. And you can use tea. So you just mix a couple of spoons of coffee with a little bit of water, and it makes the most beautiful brown, really beautiful browns, depending on the different coffees that you use. Once I had the wonderful experience of traveling in Mexico, and I met an artist there who only painted with coffee. Monochromatic paintings, framed beautifully, all done with coffee. So don't underestimate the power of coffee. So that's a little bit more about our colors. I also want to encourage you not to skip the inspiration part, because if you skip some kind of inspiration, whether it be gazing into what you are going to be painting, whether it be doing some kind of movement, anything to get you out of your thinking mind. If you don't do that, you're going to go into an analytical experience which can become a little bit dead and is not painting from the heart. So I'd like you to, before you start, take the time to sit really comfortably, make sure that your feet are on the floor, that your shoulders are relaxed, and have your inspiration, whatever it may be, in front of you. If you don't have something in front of you, you can close your eyes and allow your imagination to take you there. So keeping in mind that throughout history, people have used mandalas as a kind of a relaxation, a meditation, and even a healing tool. And so I would like you to relax, to take a little bit of time, take a few minutes actually, and really just allow yourself to look into your inspiration. And I'll meet you back here in a moment.